Hi everyone and welcome to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. Today is another experiment. It has been noted in recent weeks that I do a lot of colour and chat videos and a lot of chatorial videos, and something that I have learned about myself is that I can't draw and talk at the same time. I'm absolutely fine when I'm colouring, but for some weird reason I really struggle to converse with anyone or anything for that matter when I'm actually sketching. So you will probably know by now, purely by the length of this video, whether or not this is a success, but I'm going to attempt to sketch in my sketchbook today and do a colour and chat type video, so I think this is going to be quite interesting. There might be lots of just big blank gaps with no sound in the whole video. One of the other reasons I wanted to do this video as well is over the last few weeks I have spent a lot of extra time putting out bonus videos, particularly for some of the colour and chat videos, and I looked through my new sketchbook, my ELO sketchbook that I got not that long ago, and I've hardly drawn in it at all. My favourite thing to do is just sketch in pencil, so I felt it was time to just take a little bit of time for myself and do something that I really wanted to do, and the reason that I really wanted to, start this channel in the first place. So I think we're just going to see how it goes. I have picked quite a simple subject matter, and it's just because I don't want to make things any more difficult for myself than they're going to be already. So let's go to top down view and we can get going. Alright guys, so here we are. I am in my ELO sketchbook today with my Dalai Lama. Get it? Get it? And one of the things I kind of thought about before I started was I'm actually going to sketch in much darker pencils than I normally would, and it's purely so that you guys can see it clearly on the camera. So normally I would use an F pencil to sketch my preliminary outlines, but I'm going to use an HB today, and then I'm going to work down darker for shadowing with a 4B and a 6B, and say it's really just so that you guys can see what I'm doing. The other thing as well is I'm going to pop somewhere on the screen a picture of what I'm actually looking at so that you guys can see what I'm actually drawing, so that you can see what I see, and I'll put that up periodically just so that you can get an idea of where I am with it. I'm really nervous about this. I don't know why, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so I'll just get to a nice clean page. As I say, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to go in for a lot of detail in this image just because I'm trying to teach myself to talk and draw at the same time. So I suppose we'll just see see how this goes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well so that you can get a bit of a better view. Oh, that was a bit too much. I always get really giddy with the zoom on this. I think we're going to have to go about there. I don't think we're going to get much closer. Now that's close enough, isn't it? Okay, here we go. Obviously as well, when I'm drawing, I am looking at the still life subject from a slightly different angle from where I took the photograph, but it'll let you get a general idea of where I'm going with it. So I'm just going to get started and see how this goes. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of erasing goes on in this, but we'll take it as it comes. It'll be fine, it'll be okay. Everything's always okay in the cave. It really is, it'll be alright. So one of the things that I've been binge watching quite a lot of YouTube just lately. I seem to be spending a really large amount of time in the cave, and it's just between work and the other thing is editing videos, because just recently I have replaced my laptop, and one of the things that came along with that was new video editing software. And it's taken me a good bit of time to try and get used to this new software. It's a lot better than what I was using before, but it's all very new to me, so it's a bit of a learning curve. So in between, things rendering and so on and so forth, I have spent quite a bit of time watching videos, and I saw this video the other day on something called the KonMari method, which is a decluttering method to clean your house or your office, or all these kinds of things. And I'm a person, I hate clutter, like I really do, and I keep things quite, not necessarily neat and tidy, but the things that I keep have a purpose, and if they don't have a purpose, I tend to get rid of them. So I was fascinated by this video, and I watched this this couple, and they have a channel which is, it's not like, their channel's not really about things like that, but one of the things they did was they decided to clean this one room in their house using this method, and it was absolutely fascinating to watch. So that led me on to watching more videos about it. So basically the idea behind the principle is that you split your stuff in your house off into these categories, and it's like clothes, books and paper, and I think the other one's like sentimental. Anyway, there's like a whole list of different things you can do, and you basically tip them all out. I mean, you're supposed to do the entire house, and you take out, say it was like all of your clothes, you go around the house and you lift all of your clothes from round the house and you stick them in one massive pile, and you sit down and you go through each item one by one, and you decide if that item brings you joy. And that's the only criteria to decide whether you keep it or you get rid of it. And if it does not bring you joy, you throw it out or donate it or whatever it is, you know, you're going to do with it. So that's quite a harsh way of dealing with things, if you ask me. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just old-fashioned. But really, I mean, I was like, then these people were going through all this stuff, and this one girl, she said with the clothes situation, she was getting into the swing of it, you know, she was really getting into it, and she says, by the time I'm finished here, I'm not going to have any clothes left. And, you know, that was like a real possibility, because she was going crazy chucking stuff out. But it was just that, I mean, clothes that she wore, but she didn't necessarily like them that much. And it was really interesting to watch. And to be fair, having watched it, I don't think, because I keep things quite minimalist anyway, I don't think it's something that would necessarily benefit me. Because I thought, well, that would be great, I'd quite enjoy that. But I don't think I have enough stuff to warrant, you know, doing something like that. I don't know. But it was just really interesting to watch. And for people that feel as if they get kind of bogged down with their, you know, with their stuff, I think it was something that was really good. But all of them said it was actually more of like a cathartic experience, and it was more of a spiritual experience rather than an organisational exercise. And I just thought that was really interesting. But there you go. So that's been my source of entertainment. I keep going back to the shape of this sketchbook because I can see that it's really off down the bottom here, but I was just trying to get like a basic grounding down here, and I can't seem to get the angles right at all. I've got a bit of stage fright, I think. One thing I do when I'm sketching is I try and not use a ruler. I purposefully try and freehand all my lines because it's something that I feel that I should be working on. This side needs to come out more. This is perspective here. And to be fair, I can draw a reasonably straight line without a ruler now, and it's something that I never used to be able to do. It's just practice, I think. It's a shame it's a straight line, it's a shame it's not going in the right direction, but that'll come. One must be patient. I've got this handle to deal with here as well. Mug handles are notoriously tricky. And I think it's just because they're so very curvy. You know, it's when you actually look at a mug handle, not that anyone ever stares at mug handles, but if you look at the mug handle of your favourite cup or mug, obviously, it's actually quite a complex piece of kit. And I didn't realise how, you know, the shape of them and how they were moulded and everything until I actually started drawing them. I was like, oh, that's quite interesting. This isn't coming out far enough either. I was actually thinking, after watching those videos, I was actually thinking that I'm probably due a clear out of some description in my house. I have generally, and I include the cave in this as well, not just my sort of everyday household stuff, but I've always sort of kept things to a minimum, and it's really I think the habit has come from the fact that Mr. Gemini had a period of time where we moved about a lot. So we deliberately kept our belongings to a minimum because it was less stuff for us to have to move when whenever it was we were moving. And I think some of it's kind of stemmed from that. But I've never, even when I was a bit younger, apparently Mama Jem could tell me that when I was young, I was really untidy. And I'm not now, which is, I don't know, that's kind of weird. But since I'm like moved out my parents' house and got my own place, I've really kept my stuff to a minimum. The only thing that I really collect is books. I have a lot of books, but they have their place in my house, and there is a sort of defined area for them, and if they start to outgrow that area, then I know it's time to have a bit of a clear out kind of thing, because I wouldn't want to get to the stage where they were taking over my entire house. I do like to be surrounded by books, so I find it very calming. I'm not happy with this side at all. I'm going to erase this whole part. This is the joys of working in pencil. Yeah, so I was thinking now though that we're not moving anymore. Well, I don't know. What I mean is we won't be moving about a lot now. We've been here in the cave for 3 years now. And because we have stayed in the same place for 3 years, we have accumulated a lot of stuff again. And I'm aware of it because we're used to not having a lot of stuff. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I need to do something about this. And maybe have a clear out, so... But we were looking at one point of moving to another farm, but there's nothing's come up yet, so we're here from the time being. Okay, I think this angle needs to kind of come in like this. It looks a bit weird though. That's maybe a bit too steep. I'm going to go with that just now. Again, I can come back to it. This is one thing that I do when I'm sketching. I try and spend as much time as possible on these fundamental, sort of outlines and shapes, because if you don't get this part right, it kind of stuffs you up for the rest of your drawing, because you start putting detail and things in, and before you know where you are, you've got something that you're too far in to be able to change. And that's an issue. I'm trying to decide where this little stalk's going. It's not touching the mug, so I think it needs to go about here. It is quite a stubby little stalk for a pear. Okay, I think I'll go with that. I'm reasonably happy with that. I think my mug needs to be a bit taller as well though. I'm just gauging it against the size of my pear, because I'm kind of happy with the size and shape of my pear, but it's made my mug look quite diddly, so I think it needs to be a bit taller. So I don't know whether I'm going to have a clear out or not. I'll have to think about that for a little while. The one thing I do need to do, and most of you won't know about this because I didn't have a lot of subscribers at the time, but I got married last year. I got married last July, and we still have all the stuff from the wedding, like all the decorations and all that kind of thing, and I really need to think about getting rid of them. So I don't know whether I'm going to donate them or sell them or something like that, but that is something that I really need to do, because I have like 3 boxes of like silk flowers sitting upstairs and I don't know what to do with these. So that's exactly the kind of thing that I wouldn't normally keep. That's just something that wouldn't live in my house ever. Okay, I think that's looking a bit better. I'm a bit happier with that. I'm still not convinced about this part down here, but for the rest of it, I'm more or less happy. I think this could maybe come out a little bit more. I'm going to keep coming back to this. I'll just extend this out a little bit. It feels funny working in an HB pencil as well. I say I don't normally start this dark, but it was just the practicalities of it. I'm thinking to myself, no, nobody's going to be able to see what I'm doing. Aha, right, okay. That's made me a bit happier this time. I still think it's at too much of an angle, but it's definitely better than it was. Right, we'll go with that. Yeah, I'll go back up here to my handle. So I went for a run this morning, as I do, and today was the first day since I've started back. I've been back running about 2 weeks all in, and I had a terrible run this morning. I really did. It was awful. You can't expect to have a great run every time you go out. You know, you can't expect to improve every single time you go out. And when I got up this morning, I was kind of not struggling, but I was kind of reluctant to go. I really just wasn't feeling it at all. And I thought, no, come on, Jem, you've just got to get up and go anyway. So out I went, and it did not go well at all. Today was the first day that I've really felt how unfit I've become, and today was the first day that I've really felt the weight that I'm carrying, like the extra weight. I felt so fat today when I was running. I was really struggling. And the worst of it was when I was heading on to the last sort of 3/4 of a mile coming home, and Mr. Jem passed me in the truck. He's out doing his thing, and we have a new member of staff working for us, and that poor boy saw me in a state that I would never want anyone to have to go through. It wasn't good at all, and I had to stop them because in one of the fields that I ran past, we have some cows, and the bull is in with them just now, and the bull had got his head stuck in a ring feeder, and a ring feeder is just a big circle of metal. It's like a big cylinder, and it's got gaps in it so the cows can put their heads through and they eat, you know, what's in the middle, whether it's silage or grass or straw or whatever. And the bull that's there is he's got really big neck muscles, so he'd managed to get his head in to get something to eat, and then he'd got wedged basically at his neck muscles, and he hadn't been standing there long, I don't think, so I thought, oh, you poor soul, he clearly couldn't get out. So I said to Mr. Jem this morning, I said, you better go and fish your bull out. But I couldn't get the words out my mouth because I was so out of breath and I was sweat running down my forehead, and oh, it was just horrendous. And I thought that this guy that's started working for us, he's just going to think I'm either a lunatic or I'm really unfit, and I think he might be right on both counts actually. So yeah, that was this morning, but it's one of those experiences that I've had it before. I've been running for a long time. I've been running for years and years, and I know that you can't improve every single run. It's very unlikely. So I just kind of took it on the chin, and I just said to myself, well, you're going out the day after next. You know, that's going to be another day, so you can try again, sort of thing. So yeah, that was fun. But it's days like that, if you're in the wrong mindset and you have a bad run like that, it can really put you off actually. And I always try and say to people, don't worry about it, and don't think that you're going backwards or that you're getting really unfit or anything like that. You're a human being, you're not a machine, and you can't be at your best every single time you go out. That's like really unrealistic. And so my expectations are fairly realistic on account of, you know, the length of time that I've been running, and the awareness I have of how much weight I've put on and how long it's been since I've actually been out and done oh, hi Woo. Little Jack Russell's awake. And you know how long it's been since I've been on a regular running schedule, so I'm under no illusions, but that's it's okay, it's fine, it'll be all right. But just to try not to, I suppose it's a bit like anything, it's a bit like drawing as well. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't take it too seriously. The main thing is for me just now is the fact that I went out and I got some exercise. And you know, that's really what I was aiming for, is just to start getting out regularly and get back into a habit. And once I've kind of reformed that habit, then I can focus a little bit more on you know, on my performance and you know, what I'm doing in my weight and things like that. So that was kind of my attitude towards it this morning. So I don't know. Right, in this picture there are stickers on the sketchbook which I'm not going to try and put in. I think I'm doing quite well chatting here. I hope you guys agree. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start putting in some values. And the same as well with the writing on the mug, the Tim Hortons writing. I'm not gonna start messing about with that, because that's just, I would actually have to stop filming to do that, and that's not what we want. So as I would do with coloured pencil, I'm really doing the same thing here. I'm kind of using the side of my pencil because it's still quite sharp, but I'm just getting a kind of base layer down. And when I'm sketching like this, I always start with the darkest part of the picture, and I do that with nearly everything that I draw. And I think for me it's just because it's the easiest part, and you can kind of figure things out from there. So I usually start with the darkest part. But when I'm doing gradients and things, if I'm using coloured pencil, I do the same thing. I usually start with the darker part rather than going from light to dark, which a lot of people do. So that's quite interesting. But it just helps to give you like a starting point. I feel as if it's like a really good waypoint when you're trying to sketch a picture. The other thing I will do as well, obviously these outline lines are very, very dark, and I will be lightening them up as I go, depending on what else is going in shading wise. But see, this is just to give myself a sort of rough idea of what's going on. So that's going to be darkest, and then our next darkest thing is our pear. Got a bit of a thing about pears just now. I never used to like them. I never liked the texture of them as a child and as a younger person. And but it wasn't that long ago, I bought a pear just to draw. I was drawing like different fruits, and I bought a pear just to have something to draw. And for some reason, I don't know what made me do it, but I just started eating it afterwards. I was hungry, and after I'd drawn it, I just decided I would have a munch at it. And since then, I've been really enjoying eating pears. So needless to say, you know what the fate of this one's going to be as well. Jem having num 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 munch munch. Yes, I just want to give this a bit of a light value here. So that's going to be lighter than the sketchbook, and the mug's white, so we want that to be lighter again. And the desk is darker than the pear but lighter than the sketchbook, so we know we need to make this a lot darker. So again, I'm just gonna kind of shade this in a little bit. I think in the photograph as well, it's not really showing up too well, but down in the bottom left hand corner there is actually there's no sort of shadow or anything. The shadow's going backwards behind the mug, but you can't really see the cast shadow much, which is kind of like up here, and it's just because of the grain of the wood, because the desk in the cave is made up of you know, lots of kind of different bits of wood. I love this desk, I really do. And it's quite dark up here on this side as well, but we'll just do this with it just now. We'll get it sorted out eventually. Okay, so I'm going to start to work on a bit more detail now. So what I want to do is I'm just going to lighten up using my kneaded eraser here. This is me going into tutorial mode. I'm just going to lighten up these sort of initial lines. You guys can still see that, that's okay. I just want them to be a bit lighter. I have to say I'm a huge fan of the kneaded eraser for this. I very rarely use any other kind of eraser anymore. I just find that these do the job, and this is just a cheap one. This is from W.H. Smith, which in the UK is like a local newsagent stroke stationer type shop. You know, you can buy your newspapers in it, and you can go in and buy you know, paperback books and stuff. But they do keep a lot of stationery, like back to school supplies, and a little bit of art stuff as well, depending on the size of the store. But this is their own brand. And this kneaded eraser, it's actually two large ones put together. And I think they cost me about £1.50. So they're not expensive, but I just really like the kneaded erasers. I like them a lot. Okay, so having a little look at my mug now, what I need to do is, I need to fix this rim first for a start. Just take that in and round. I would say this is probably one of the more difficult places to get a steady line rather than drawing a straight line, is when you have a curve like this, is to get it consistent all the way around, so you know that the rim of your mug is consistent. I find that more difficult than having to draw a straight line. Maybe that's just me. So I'll start put some shadow in here now as well. That will be fine. Just going back to watching YouTube videos, which I say I've been doing quite a lot of just recently. Another video that I watched that absolutely fascinated me was, it actually nearly made me cry, was a lady who was a sculptress, and what she did was she enlisted the help of some people who were registered blind, and she asked that the blind people to describe someone that they spend a lot of time with. So there was one lady who had a sort of, I don't know what you would call her, like a personal assistant who looked after her and, you know, just sort of generally kept her company, I think. And the lady herself was probably, I would say she would be in her 60s maybe, or early 60s. And this helper that she had come to her, you know, just in the last maybe 2 years or so. And she was a really young kind of like hip girl. So obviously this lady, the blind lady, had no idea what this girl actually looked like. She'd never seen her before she lost her sight. And the sculptress asked these people to describe these people, and she sculpted them from the blind person's description, because that is how they see the person that's close to them. And I was laughing, I was crying. It was the loveliest thing. There was a couple that had been together for a long time. I think they'd been married for like 40 years or something. It was something insane like that. But this man had, he lost his sight a bit later in life, and he isn't completely blind, but he only sees like dark shadows and shapes. So when the sculptress was asking him about what his wife looked like what her hair was like, and he said, well, when she was younger she had really dark curly hair. He says, but I would imagine it's a lot greyer than that now. And of course the sculptress lady, she started to laugh. And his wife could hear all this being said, and that, you know, and she was sitting kind of like in behind a curtain, and she was laughing as well. And I just thought, bless you. But he was, you know, she was asking them questions about, you know, how they coped if they'd always been blind and so on and so forth. And it was really uplifting, but at the same time it was quite sad as well. And I think that's why it made me want to cry a little bit, because there was a lady there who had a son, and again she'd lost her sight. You know, she wasn't born blind, and she only remembers her son as this tiny little toddler, and he's, you know, like a young man now. And that was really interesting as well. And nearly all of the sculptures were pretty accurate. It was amazing. If I can find the link to it, I'll put it down in the description for this video if anybody's interested in watching it, because honestly, it was just fascinating. It really was. It was fascinating. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a long video either, but it was just, yeah, it's kind of uplifting at the same time. Because the last question that the lady was asking her describers was, do you think you're worse off for being blind, or would you want to have your sight back? And, you know, she was asking like what things that perhaps that they missed about having their sight, and there were some really interesting answers. But this older gentleman who'd been with his wife a long time, he says people always look at you and think, oh, poor you've lost something. He says, but what you forget is we don't have to see a lot of the bad things. And he says, because once you see something, you can't unsee it. And he says, we don't have to deal with that. He says, so, you know, like very graphic images or violence, that kind of thing. He says, we don't see any of that. And I thought, that's a really good point, actually. I never even thought of it like that. So it was a very insightful video. I liked it. It was good. That served my entertainment. Just trying to work on some of the shading in this handle here, and it's an absolute butt ache. Told you, handles are a nightmare. I'm having a look at the actual mug again now, and the handle's still too like squashed in, but if I pull it out any further, I'm kind of messing up the like the perspective and the angles of everything else, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah, I mean, some of that graphite's quite heavy there, and you can see that eraser's just, it's just dealt with it without any worries at all. I think I need to come out to about here and then go back in, and then what I'll do is I'll move this part afterwards. Yeah, this the thing that made me notice it was the angle of this curve here. It's just not right at all. Bring this down, and then it kind of thickens up there as well. That's slightly better. This part's wrong now. Advice, don't ever draw mug handles. Be fine, we'll get there. I'm just keeping an eye on the timer here as well, because I think in the tradition of previous chatty videos, I'd like to keep it under an hour. I think any more than an hour's just it's just a bit silly. Now, interestingly, this has worked out quite well, because if you look at the photograph, you can just see the corner, the top right hand corner of the sketchbook and no more. So I've actually adjusted that to the correct angle for the rest of my picture, so that's quite good. I hadn't noticed that before, but there we go, I fixed something I didn't even know I needed to fix until now. What is it Bob Ross calls it? Happy little accidents. I seem to have a lot of happy little accidents. Oh, goodness me. Okay, so I'm going to fill this in again. As I'm starting to work on this section, I'm looking round about to see how it's going to affect the other areas of the picture. And I'm starting to see, the more I look at the sketchbook, the more I realise that although it's black, it's a lot darker in here than here, and it's just the way, you know, the light's coming towards it. So this is why it's really important to keep looking back at your reference, whether it's in real life or whether it's a photograph, because the more you look, the more you will see. Okay, so I'm going to come over here a little bit now, and I'm going to start on my little stump. I actually don't think that that's far enough over as well. It's funny how the little things, you kind of like fixate on the little things. And the stem of this pear is, it's not causing me issues, but I keep looking at it. I'm like, that's not right. I don't even think I'm going to need to move on to my darker pencils. I think I can do this whole thing in HB, which is nice. I have done quite a few drawings that are just in HB pencil. I did one of I don't think I ever showed it on the channel, but I did an old army boot, and I did it with a mechanical HB pencil, so it was like a really cheap pencil. And I did the whole thing, you know, all the creases and everything, just with one pencil, and it turned out really well. I was quite pleased with it. One thing I do when I'm shading organic objects, obviously there's a lot of you know, pigment differences and pock marks and pits in this pear, so I try and kind of put them in first and then shade over the top of them, and I can see that this pear's a lot darker around here. You don't want to go too heavy handed with it. That's always my worry, that I'm going to make it too dark and then it doesn't, you know, it doesn't look right. And we've got kind of like a highlighty bit here, but you can see the rest of the kind of speckling around here. The nice thing about drawing organic objects as well, and it's something that I really like, and I do draw a lot of kind of you know, nature and animals, and if you don't get it quite right when it comes to things like this, no one's going to know. Everyone will just assume that that's the markings on whatever it is. That's the really nice thing about drawing organic shapes. You can get away with a little bit more, you know, you get a bit of artistic license. I still like to follow things, you know, reasonably accurately though, if I can. It's got another little mark there. Other than that, there's no real distinguishing features. That it is a little bit flatter on here. I think I've maybe bashed it. I don't know. Just flatten that off, but it's not really that circular, I don't think. I might have to come back to that as well. Yeah, I'll go with that. Okay, I'm going to go on with some shading now. I need to darken this down a fair bit. It's going to be really dark in there. There is this sticker in where I'm sort of scribbling away just now, but if the sticker wasn't there, I imagine it would be quite uniform with the rest of this part of the sketchbook. I've just realised as well, this is a clear advertisement for Rin's channel, Drawing with Waffles. It's a massive sticker right at the front. I do like watching her channel, and I wanted her, I think it's actually her old logo now, and it's the little face that she draws, and it's like on a waffle, and I wanted that sticker. So when I went onto Redbubble to get it, she had one or two, so I just thought, yeah, I'll get them all. But that seemed a good place to put that sticker, so if you haven't checked out her channel, go and check her artwork out. She's the quickest sketcher I've ever seen on YouTube. She's super quick. And that's something that I don't think, with all the practice in the world, to be fair, I don't think I'll ever be that quick at sketching. I don't think it's humanly possible. So this is a little bit darker here, but not drastically so. I'm sat here in the cave, and there's a rather unpleasant smell that keeps wafting towards me, and I've realised what it is. It's Jock. He's curled up down here, and he has he's been out working, so he smells a bit sheepy, for want of a better phrase. And it's not a horrendous smell, but it's not a pleasant smell at all. But because the house is warm, he's obviously starting to thaw out a little bit. Oh, good grief. There's kind of a shadow coming off this pear as well. So I need that to kind of stand out against the sketchbook, but merge in with all of this as well. It's very subtle though. Could be here for some time. Take that on the go now. How's that looking? I can blend all this in together. I probably won't, to be fair, just because it's just in my sketchbook. It's not anything serious, but I would probably blend this out if I was doing it as a proper drawing in inverted commas. Now what I do need to do is I need to put this bottom edge on this sketchbook as well. Again, I'm going to omit, there's two kind of like white parts just down here, and I should keep them. Should I keep them in? Do you guys think I should keep them in? Maybe I will keep them in, but I need to draw this bottom edge, and it's quite narrow, and then this comes up and forms the outside edge of the spine, something like that maybe. I still think this angle's wrong. I'm trying to tilt this to match it's a little bit off. It's not terribly off, but it's kind of bugging me, if I'm honest. It's kind of bugging me. Just take this out. So I just want to give the impressions of the pages of this. I don't really want to you know, draw them all the way across, but I'm just going to put in some little hatching lines here to give that illusion of the pages. Again, if this was a drawing I was going to sit down and I was doing as a serious project, I would spend a bit more time and put a lot more detail in. But this is actually one of my favourite things to do on a Sunday, is just do these simple little sketches and maybe focus on one particular thing like shading or perspective or angles, and it's something I find quite relaxing. I have to get my angles right here as well for these white bits. This isn't going to go too well. Trying to gauge roughly where they are. Maybe there. This one's almost in line with the mug handle. That's something I do find really helpful, is like trying to find a reference point or an anchor point. So when I was drawing in these little white bits, if I do this sort of idea up against what I'm looking at, you know, up in front of me, I know you can't see my hand, but I'm trying to explain here, come on guys, that you can get a rough gauge of where this part of the white section should be in relation to the rest of the picture. So that was kind of what I was going for there. And I do find that really helpful, especially if you're drawing multiple objects like this. Now this is really dark down here, so I'm just going to go for it and fill it in. I have to say, these ELO sketchbooks, the paper is really nice to draw on. It really is. I like it a lot. I was kind of worried that I might be disappointed by these sketchbooks because they've kind of been hyped up quite a lot, and the fact that they were out of stock for so long, and I kind of thought to myself, you know, don't get too overexcited because they just might not be that good, but I do really like them. I've seen people that really aren't that keen on them though, that are disappointed in them. I think it really depends what you're wanting them for as well, I'll be honest. When you're like me and you're kind of like chucking everything at them, and to be fair, I don't do a lot of finished sketches in my sketchbook because to me that's not really what a sketchbook's meant for. But you're not going to get really sort of polished pictures in graphite anyway, just because the paper's so smooth. But just for some nice easy sketching, loose sketching like this, it's really good. I like it a lot. I like how flat the pages are as well. See this flatness, this makes me happy. Okay, so that's really dark in there. And it's kind of dark most of the way over. Something weird that's happened on the channel, this is one of these other things I kind of be meaning to mention. Since we have reached the heady heights of 1,000 subscribers, I've started getting offers in from companies that manufacture arty type stuff, and it's happening quite a lot. I was really surprised. I'm like, oh, these people like want to like give me stuff. Unfortunately, most of the things I've been offered aren't really relevant to the kind of stuff that we like to do here in the cave, which is a shame. But I'm just really shocked at the amount of emails and things that I've had from, you know, from companies that want to kind of like tout their wares. It's like, oh, will you review this? We'll send you this. One of the things that I keep getting asked about and people keep offering me is these what do you call them, diamond paintings. Now I've seen Colour with Claire do them, and I don't understand. Right, yeah, okay, I understand the concept of them. That's not what I don't understand. But I don't understand how these companies, or why these companies are approaching people like me trying to give me them, because I don't even, aside from the 3D pen stuff, which I feel is a completely different thing altogether, I don't really do anything even remotely like crafty. I would have thought they would have approached people that did maybe like cross stitch or you know, sewing or something like that. I know they call it diamond paintings, but I just find it really odd that I keep getting these offers for all these diamond paintings, and to be perfectly honest, it's not something I'm interested in. I think the tedium would be too much for me. I really, really do. I know I have got patience, but I don't think I've got that much patience, honestly. But yeah, that is just a really bizarre side effect of getting to that point, because your channel's monetized and because you know, there's advertising being put out on it. It's very bizarre. It's a very strange feeling. I'm like, can someone not like offer to send me packs of like 6,000 coloured pencils? I guess I would review them all day long. You wouldn't need to do anything to persuade me into that. But yeah, I just thought that the diamond painting thing, I just thought that was really strange. But maybe it's just me, I don't know. It's just, I don't associate diamond painting with art. I really don't. And I don't know why. I don't have any like solid reasoning for that or any sort of justification. But just in my head, I've never really thought about it that way, and it sort of considered it in with the same stuff. That's it really. So yeah, that's been quite odd. In a nice way though. I mean, in a nice way, but it's very, very strange feeling to all of a sudden have all these people, you know, trying to give you stuff. And it's not necessarily stuff that you want. Does that make sense? I know what I mean. But it's strange. I'm trying to be observant here, and again I noticed that the front plane of the sketchbook, that sort of lip of the cover is really dark all the way along. So I'm going to try and do this quite evenly, she says. I think this is going to end up looking more like a shadow than the actual lip of the sketchbook, but never mind. See, if you are going to do stuff like this in your sketchbook, don't obsess over it. Right, I'm going to take my 6B and I'm going to start really darkening this down now, because I'm trying to build up my shadow layers now. I do like a good 6B. Hardly putting any pressure on that at all. Look, bam. That is rich. I did try. I was doing recently when I did the drawing of my friend's dog. Again, that's on Instagram if you want to look at it. And he's lying with his face all smooshed up against a pillow. I did try and use an 8B pencil in that drawing, and it was the worst idea ever. Smudginess is always an issue. Like, the softer the graphite you use, the more smudginess you're gonna get. And good lord, see, when I was using an 8B, I had it everywhere, and it was just, it got to the point where it was like ruining my picture, and I was like, no, I'm gonna have to stop using this. So I tend not to go much higher than a 6B, because that gives me plenty of smudginess, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just like rubbing out the bit where I've smooshed it across with my hand, because I'm going to have to go back to that and put more shading in there as well. So it's quite dark in here as well. And that gives me much more definition on the edge of the mug, just in that little corner. The other thing, it's not a problem, but the other thing I'm noticing as well is that the pear stalk is quite dark, and I would still like it defined in this piece, but, you know, so that it doesn't just kind of like disappear into the colour of the sketchbook. But I may have to sort of make it not artificially lighter, but you know what I mean, don't you? You guys know what I mean. I'm trying to keep this shadow here as well. And then I'll go down to my 4B. I'll just sort of smoosh all this together. See, just like coloured pencil, no different. Graphite is much easier to work with than coloured pencil though. Number one, because you don't have the complication of the different colours. But it kind of behaves very similarly, obviously depending on what grade of pencil you're using. But I just find this really, really relaxing. I really do. Almost as relaxing as colouring in coloured pencil. And it really is. It's one of my favourite things to do. I really enjoy messing about with art supplies. Obviously, that's the tagline for the channel. I love playing with art stuff, I really do. But there's just the simplicity of just a pencil and a piece of paper, and knowing that you can erase your mistakes without too much effort or too much hassle. That is just so appealing to me. It really, really is, and I love it. Because it instantly takes the pressure off what you're doing. you know, and you don't sort of like panic yourself quite as much, especially being a newer artist. You are scared that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and it is so much easier to rectify those mistakes when you know you have the option to just get rid of them by erasing them. It's really nice. I really enjoy that part of it as well. Because I do think a lot of the time, and all you have to do is take like one wee look on Facebook or wherever, and people put a huge amount of pressure on themselves when they're drawing or creating or colouring or, you know, any sort of artistic pursuit like that. And the bottom line is, you know, the crux of the matter is you're supposed to be doing it as a hobby. It's supposed to be enjoyable. You shouldn't be beating yourself up about it. So that's, again, one of the reasons why I really like graphite for that. It's nice. Okay, so see, this part is significantly darker, but I've tried to sort of keep this edge here quite soft, and it's just so that I can start working down. So I can always go back over it if I want to make it darker, but just want to get this a little bit more uniform. Now I'm having to kind of make up, when I get down to sort of here, I'm having to make up the shading because the white sticker does cover most of it. But I'm just going to try and sort of match this up now. I think I'm going to go this way. So I'll probably go over this with a blending stump just to smooth it out, because the surface of the, you know, like the texture of the sketchbook isn't immediately obvious. Even less so in the photograph than looking at it in real life, because I kind of like, me looking at it, I know the texture is there, but it's kind of back to what I was saying in my last video. You need to draw what your eyes see, not what you know you see or what you think you see. And I know that there is texture on this sketchbook, but when I'm looking at it, because of how far away it is from me, you can't actually see that texture. Therefore, I should not be drawing it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to leave that like that for now. There is a weeny bit of a shadow down in here. There's kind of like a bit of binding there as well. I've kind of missed that out. But there's a little bit of shadow in here. Now see, really what I would want to do is take an F pencil to shade in here. I wouldn't really be shading, it's just basically putting a mark on the paper, and it's just to differentiate because it is darker than these little white tabs at the bottom. It's just getting the contrast between them. Oh, I'm chucking my pencil away. Okay, I'm going to do a bit more work on this pear now. So we've got a lighter part up here. See, I'm not really taking any great care over this, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't need to. But I do want to give it a bit more. See, the very obvious highlight's right here, but it is kind of lighter at this left-hand side because that's where the light's hitting it. And when you tilt the pear in, like in the other direction of the light, it is actually lighter in colour in this part anyway, so that kind of makes it super light, if you know what I mean. So what's happening now is this bottom part's starting to blend into the sketchbook, which tells me that the sketchbook isn't dark enough around here. Because that is a very defined line if you look at even at the photograph. I keep going to say at the item, but I'm forgetting you guys are looking at the photograph. You're not right beside me. So that maybe needs to be a little bit darker. Just round that part. Because I think the light's kind of coming from like this sort of direction. So, and what I want to do now is just make some of these little marks darker as well. Oh, I'm at 53 minutes, good grief. I didn't actually know how far through a sketch like this I would get just chatting away. I've got reasonably far. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to add in a little bit more contrast here in this background part, because again that is darker than the pear, so the pear should be able to stand out against that, but it is lighter than the sketchbook. Yeah, there we go. So that bit of my pear's standing out a little bit more now. I'll do the same in here. I need to put this line back in. Back to the handle, this blinking mug handle. Right, I need to sort this out because it's making it look really unfinished. That's kind of going like that. I've kind of kept this shadow here a little bit too. And then we've got this edge, and that kind of disappears down into nothing, so I want to bring that up there. Yeah, okay. Getting there now. I've all of a sudden, because I've become quite conscious of the time, that's me, I'm concentrating again, I'm clamming up. I suppose the more I do things like this, the better I will get at being able to multitask in terms of sketching and talking. I do forget though, like I've been colouring for over 3 years, so, and I've only been drawing just over a year, so I suppose it makes sense that if I was going to be able to multitask with anything, it would be colouring rather than sketching. So I kind of, you know, that kind of makes sense in my head now that I actually say it out loud as well. Oh, good gracious. But it's one of these things though, I think it's just the same as everything else. If you keep doing it, then you're going to get a bit better at it. But I do genuinely feel bad for the viewers that aren't colourists and don't really want to sit and watch the colouring videos. And you know, that's just a preference, that's okay. But they miss out on quite a lot of stuff that I talk about, because sometimes I talk about things like, you know, with the channel or my art, sort of inadvertently, you know, it was never the intention, but it just kind of like comes round in conversation, and the guys that don't like to watch the colouring videos kind of miss out on all that, and I'm not really very happy about that. So that was again kind of one of the motivations why I wanted to do this. Right, I'm just going to kind of finish this off now, and it's so that I can ground the sketchbook onto a surface. Because it looks as if it's just kind of hanging about in mid-air there, and that's no use. Okay, so note to self, subject with three items in it's too big to draw in a 1 hour drawing chat slot. Oh, every day's a school day. Oh, that went a bit wrong there, never mind. Yep, so we've got more of a sort of cast shadow coming off here, and it's kind of tapering away, so I'm going to darken this bit down. There's a tiny little bit of shadow under here as well. There we go, I think that's about as good as it's going to get in the time frame that we have here. Okay, that's not a bad start. I will spend a lot more time on it just to make it a lot more polished and see how I'm going to blend in some of these graphite lines and things as well, just to smooth it all out. And I'm probably going to put a little bit more shading around here as well, because this is very, very pale, this front part. and darken up this part round the top as well. But anyway, I think this has been reasonably successful for a first drawing chat. I haven't left too many gaps in the narrative, I don't think. I would really like your feedback on this video, guys, as to whether it's something that you would sit and watch, or again, if it's something that you have me on in the background while you're doing other things. Any feedback on this would be greatly appreciated, because if you have enjoyed it, I will do more of these. That's certainly not a problem, because I really enjoy doing stuff like this. Okay, I'm going to call it quits there. Thank you so much for joining me on this lovely sketchy Sunday, and I hope you all have an excellent Sunday for what's left of it, and we'll see you back in the cave next week for more videos. Bye for now, everyone. So after I'd finished filming, I spent a little bit more time on this sketch, so this is where we're at now. I was just trying to add a little bit of interest in the background there, but I'm not gonna take too much time over that. But you can see I did a bit more work on this shadow here, and I've kind of started to blend things out. So I just thought you might like to see that after sitting for an hour listening to me ramble on. Bye, guys.